Kathryn was one of the most selfless people I've ever known, and I know many of you would agree on that. She dedicated her life to work, especially to the students that loved her teaching and her personality. She came to UND at 1993 and showed everyone that women can pursue hard science in the field of physical chemistry. I came to UND in 2005 when Kathryn was already a full professor. And I have to say that to that day, I met only two women who has made that achievement. And one of them was Professor Thomasson. What was also impressive or learning for me was her quiet demeanor, friendly mentorship, and kindness, which I actually at that time did not expect in leader, in science or in general. Yet I really valued those because I realized that we can be themselves in our own way and succeed. She spent most of her career at UND as a researcher and educator and served as the director of the graduate studies in chemistry department. Her dedication to students and her passion to teaching made her the ideal person for advising and mentoring. I would go to my favorite memory of Kathryn. When my first son was born back in 2004, I was adjunct at that time. Kathryn handmade a beautiful stuffed animal for him. As my children got older, Kathryn always came with great book suggestions. On many occasions, she brought those books for them to read. She never expected anything in return. She just always said that she loves to spread the good reads around. So today I'm here in front of you saying these words. I'm sad about that, and yet I'm honored to know Kathryn and see what amazing person she was. She showed us that no matter how hard life can be, we must all learn from it and embrace every moment of it.
She was the first woman faculty member in chemistry. She also became the first woman faculty member who became a full professor in chemistry. She was the first biophysical faculty member that chemistry had, and was very influential in developing the biochem option, as it's now called. It used to be called the pre-health track. It was very influential. Kathryn was unique in many ways. She grew her research group early on, mainly through undergraduates and postdocs, showed that it could be done here. And this, not to say that other people haven't had a mix of undergrads in their groups, but she was almost exclusively undergrad and postdoc at the beginning. And later on, of course, she recruited a lot of graduate students. During her time, she had great impact on the program. During her time, the PChem division changed primarily from a teaching focus, but it went from a very strong teaching focus to a mix between teaching and research. She has recruited many grad students. But she never forgot about her undergrads as well. I think she's known by all for her kindness, her remarkable kindness. She had contributions to the university outside of chemistry as well. She was the computational task leader in the Brin and Embry collaborations or grouping that was approximately 10 years long. And during that time, she essentially strengthened the connections between chemistry and the med school.
She's just a force for good, I think, and had a positive impact on everybody she interacted with. I think she was a great, from what I've learned since then as dean of the college, sounds like she was a wonderful citizen of the Department of Chemistry, contributed significantly to student education, contributed significantly to research, and support of her students, both in terms of research mentoring and financial support.
First of all, today is a good day. We remember such a great person, Kathryn Thomasson, and People talked about her kindness. Yeah, that is the word that captures just about anything. Well, we also need to mention that she really loved cats. So, just as a sign of remembrance, I'm wearing this tie. You can see this is for Kathryn, and even my mask today reflects her passion for cats. Well, besides that, I can tell you that Kathryn was a wonderful colleague. It's if, for example, I needed a substitute for a lecture, if I went to a conference, I would approach Kathryn and just start talking. Kathryn, I may have to go to a conference. She would immediately jump in and say, I can cover it for you. And Mark mentioned her legacy, the biochemistry program. She left quite a bit of legacy here. Not only that, but physical chemistry lab. She developed it from scratch. She developed it in such a creative way that we still keep its structure. We had to update it. We had to modify certain labs, but still the structure is amazingly similar. It's because of her creativity and very good organization skills. So basically, 30 years from now, I bet the physical chemistry lab will still be her legacy. So this is what I wanted to say. Well, thank you, Kathryn, for doing all of this for us, for people here, for our department. She would never forget to write a Christmas card and even attach a gift, not only to me, to Irina, but also to our son. Such people are rare. They are the essence of humanity.
Dr. Kathryn Thomasson was selfless, dependable, gentle, humble, loving, kind-hearted, caring, compassionate, thoughtful, considerate, devoted, always smiling, and a peaceful force of nature. The following narratives from students and former students put the above descriptions of Dr. Thomasson into perspective. Dr. Thomasson welcomed every Cameroonian to the chemistry department with a quilt that she made herself to shield them from the cold. How thoughtful, considering the temperature difference between Cameroon and North Dakota. The quilts put smiles on our faces and made us feel comfortable and welcome. We cherish those quilts, and many of us still have them. They bring back great memories. One student says, I was scared to come to Grand Forks, but once in Grand Forks, Dr. Thomasson welcomed me and made me feel at home. Another says, as an international student, she was more than an advisor to me. I looked up to her as my mom away from home, for I found in her that tender, loving care that emanates only from a true mother. Thus, I called her Ma Thomasson, a title in my home country that is reserved for good moms. Another student shares this. During the first week of my arrival at UND, I was lost, going from Abbott Hall to my room at Hancock Hall. I had to return to the department around 6 p.m. Unfortunately, I met Dr. Thomasson, who was still working late that day. She graciously walked me to Hancock Hall before returning to the department to round up her day. This act probably meant little to her or may have seemed like normal order of business, but only someone who finds himself or herself in another country for the first time will fully understand the enormous impact of such an act. We all have good stories to tell about our encounters with Dr. Thomasson. She was commonly referred to as Ma or Mama Thomasson within our circles. She earned it because she truly was like a mother to us international students from Cameroon. When you are about 7,000 miles away from home, Having a mother figure away from home is invaluable. Her kindness had no bounds, and an endless stream of love flowed out of her heart, soothing all who came across her. She understood where each and every student came from and the difficulties they might be facing. She went above and beyond in ensuring that every graduate student was comfortable. There is a saying that you do not know what you have until it's gone. We knew what we had in Dr. Thomasson, but never thought we would lose her so soon. Ma Thomasson, thank you for taking the time to listen, to care, to believe in us, and for contributing to making us who we are today. We loved you. Although we are really saddened by your departure and miss you, faith tells us you are in a better place with the Almighty. Rest in perfect peace. Your legacy lives on. Thank you.
I want to take a few moments to encapsulate what Dr. Thomasson's scholarship meant to all of us. So many students that Dr. Thomasson impacted during her stay in this world remember her as an astute mentor with deep commitment to education and research that focused on the holistic development of individual, especially those from improbable beginnings. In one student's own word, Dr. Thomasson was an amazing professor. They say, I experienced this firsthand when I didn't do well in the physical chemistry portion of my initial graduate assessment, which meant I had to take her undergraduate course. And I must admit, it changed the trajectory of my graduate studies at UND. The practical and transformational educational tools like Mathematica that she applied during the course enhanced my analytical, critical thinking, and laid a solid foundation for my success throughout my academic career at UND and beyond. I will miss her discipline, her dedication, her conscientiousness and ingenuity, her passion for enhancing student learning and fostering collaboration were hallmarks of all the programs, scholarly and educational activities that she developed during her time at Abbott Hall. As a transformational leader, Dr. Thomasson sought to develop scholars with diverse backgrounds. One student described her as a pioneer of diversity and inclusivity before it even became a thing in higher education. This is reflected in the culturally diverse lab that she built at UND and her diverse collaborations as a researcher. Her scholarship efforts combine multiple aspects of physical sciences to promote understanding of functional macromolecular complexes. Her gift of innovative thinking, visionary spirit, patience, and tenacity are embodied in presentations at over 52 national and international conferences, more than 70 peer-reviewed research papers in highly ranked journals, and external funding worth millions from many different institutions, including the NIH and the NSF. Another significant contribution to science exemplified by Dr. Thomasson was her effort to broaden the participation of women in STEM through her involvement with the Iota Sigma Pi National Honor Society for Women in Chemistry. Her leadership and scholarship were critical to the successful defense of 4 doctoral dissertations, 4 master's theses, and 9 undergraduate student senior theses. The multidisciplinary nature of her scholarship activities ensured collaborations across different areas of chemistry, biochemistry, molecular biology, computational biology, and medicine that benefited her students and the chemistry department at UND. One student mentioned that the chemistry department would definitely miss Dr. Thomasson for the infectious smile, enthusiasm, and significant contributions to the faculty body, to UND and elsewhere. We miss you dearly and know your legacy of scholarship would continue to change the world. Thank you.
Dr. Kat was professionally driven by students' success and career advancements. As a result, she always encouraged and supported student participation in professional development activities, such as attending and presenting at regional, national, and international conferences. She was also very keen on having students as lead authors in peer-reviewed publications, which made them enhance their academic and economic competitiveness upon graduation. This was not only limited to students in her research group, for her passion to see students succeed was also extended to students outside her research group. She encouraged travel to national conferences, even if it meant paying out of her pocket, because she understood the impact of professional development and networking on academic growth and career advancement. This is why Professor Thomasson made it a point to educate many incoming international students on these effective research experiences and practical applications. Her patience during the mentorship process was incredible. She was a great teacher, a phenomenal, compassionate, and devoted mentor to all students, as evidenced by the success of all who went through her labs and classrooms. Upon request, Dr. Thomasson also provided strong letters of recommendation to all graduate students seeking career placement and internships. She never complained, even when notifications came in a few days to the deadline. As a sign of pride in the success of graduates, she did not only attend the commencement ceremonies, but took additional time to celebrate with the students during their family gatherings and parties. In addition, she made every effort to support job search for graduating students, and even went as far as providing paid postdoctoral opportunities for some during the search period. Dr. Thomasson, we, your former students, including students outside your research mentorship, commend you for your consistent advice and suggestions that shaped our professional careers. We know you never left any stone unturned until all of us achieved our full potential. For this, we say thank you, and you will deeply be missed by us.
I was traveling on 9/11 back in 2001 when I came to UND, and my travel was interrupted, of course, by the 9/11 incidents, September 9/11. So I was already late for school, actually, because school had started back in August, on August 26th. So I was actually already late. But upon arrival at the airport in Grand Forks on Sunday morning, the 17th of September, this person was standing there smiling in my direction, and I'm looking around and going, okay, who is she smiling at? And it turned out that she was smiling at me. That was Dr. Kathryn Thomasson, standing at the airport in Grand Forks, dressed in her traditional Cameroonian dress that had probably been brought to her earlier by either Felix or Alex. And that image has never left my mind. And that image just got solidified during the course of my years at UND. And of course, it would be strange for me to not mention that the next image would be to see my advisor, potential advisor, riding a bike to school on the morning. And I was like, oh, really? Wow, this is interesting. So I think those are some of the things that people remember about Dr. Thomasson. I'm sure there are some light moments there. But I'm going to talk about today about her legacy beyond UND, or outside of UND, or her legacy as it touches people that might not have even been in her research group or been at UND at all, because she was just that person. For most students and teachers, the teacher-student relationship starts when the student gets into their class and ends when the student gets out. Or if you even drag it out further, it starts when they get into campus and ends when they leave campus, when they graduate and go out. For Dr. Thomasson, it was completely reversed. The relationship started long before the student ever got to UND and persists long after the student left UND. That's why we are still all here, because our connection with her went beyond our time at UND. For the Cameroonian community, as you've already heard, we fondly refer to her as Ma Thomasson, given her motherly nature and the connections that she created that have persisted up to this point. So in a simple representation of this, one student states, I heard about the kindness of Dr. Kathryn Thomasson before I came to UND. And another one adds, even before I would encounter you, I already sensed your sweetness, thousands of miles away in Cameroon. Now, this becomes even more significant when we consider that a lot of these students were not even her students, were not even in the chemistry department. There are some that were in math, some that were over in computer sciences, and others even in the arts and history, social science, social studies, and things like that. So this is, for us, something that goes deep. Dr. Thomasson's empathy, we've already heard about it. Her kind-heartedness, we've already heard about it. But her cultural awareness and fondness for diversity made her an exceptional person. In one former student's words, she was the epitome of equity and a fair shot for all people from different cultures and backgrounds, even before the whole issue of diversity became a big thing in higher education. In that light, I would say Professor Thomasson was a pioneer in striving to make this imperfect world just a little bit more perfect. 2000, Dr. Thomasson worked on the relationship with the University of Boya to bring more high quality students from Cameroon. So she was a pioneer for that program. And since then, many Cameroonian students have been inspired to join the UND community. A number of students credit her for going above and beyond to even help them secure their visas, something that goes beyond her role as a professor or even an advisor. But she did it with kindness and with love. Her love for culture and diversity was evident in her regular participation at international student programs, especially those programs that included Cameroonian students' participations. One student says, I always recall meeting her at a Cameroonian function she attended dressed in her African regalia to show support to her community. She built relationships not only with her students or UND students for that matter, but with our families. Our children may never have attended UND. Our children were never Dr. Thomasson's students, but they are direct beneficiaries of her love. As one student put it, and Dr. Zhao also mentioned this earlier, I will always cherish the pleasant memories of receiving handwritten cards and gifts to me and all my children every Christmas. Another student extends this by saying, consistent communications and Christmas goodies have left indelible marks on multi-generational families. So Ma Thomasson, you essentially became part of the Cameroonian community, and we loved you for it. Like they say in Cameroon, in our pidgin language, waka fine fine, fare thee well, Mama Thomasson. Your legacy endures. Thank you.
When I was there, I was Vicki Johnston, and I just wanted to share briefly because I think we forget that people leave and you think, well, she might not have realized how much she impacted my life, but I started school there in 1993, so pretty close to when she started, and I see a lot of other professors here that impacted me, but I didn't know she was ill. And I still, just in the last year, there were two things that I thought of with her. One, she used to have, I did research with her for 6 months, and she used to have you rewrite the directions based on the student that before you. So I got the directions from the student before me, and anything that didn't make sense, I had to revise. And I realized I've used that now for 20 some years. I'll have a procedure that one person in the lab wrote, and I always use that. Well, let's make a new version, you know, what didn't make sense. And that's something that she did, you know, 20 some years ago. And then the other one, which was more pretty impactful recently, is I thought it was so bizarre that she wouldn't let me use the computer mouse with my dominant hand. So when I was doing research for her for 6 months, I had to use my non-dominant hand on the mouse so that you could take notes with your dominant hand. You should be able to do multitask. And at the time, I thought, boy, this is really intense. And then I just had elbow surgery last year, and I panicked for a little bit. And then I realized, no, I taught myself how to use the mouse with my non-dominant hand with Dr. Thomasson. I can do it again. And so, you know, 20 some years later, and she's still impacting my life. So it was just, I was sad to hear of her passing.
Hello, I am Dr. Alexander Azenkink. I am a graduate from the University of North Dakota Chemistry Department from 2007. So when I joined the department, one of my first assignments as a teaching assistant was to work with Dr. Thomasson. And over the years, those of us students that came from Cameroon to study at UND, we just generally call her Mama Thomasson. And the reason was because she was so caring to us. You know, in fact, every time that we had a new student come from Cameroon, she always prepared this handmade quilt, like the one I have in my background here. She gives it as a gift to each of us, especially during the winter months. During Christmas, she always sends Christmas cards, and she will send little kids books. Those of us that had kids, she will send little kids books to our kids. So we appreciated it a lot. It was really the type of concern that we thought it was just like what a mother would give to a child. And that's why we gave her the name Mama Thomasson. When we heard that Mama Thomasson was ill and she had cancer, she was struggling in her last few years. Those of us past students who are now working in various places across the US, we basically gathered together and decided to contribute a little bit of money. And we raised about $12,000 to send to her to support her with the hospital bills. And when she left the hospital, she went to a therapy clinic in Ohio. And then eventually she wanted to come back home to Grand Forks. So when she came back to Grand Forks, she was staying in her apartment and following her treatment to see if she was going to be strong enough to eventually return to teaching or to doing other things that she wanted to do. But unfortunately, eventually she passed away. All of us, the past students, as well as the chemistry department, were all devastated. And those of us who were students from Cameroon, we had graduated, but we always kept touch with her, and we were very, very, very sad. And again, we decided to pull together and thought that, you know, it would be nice to have something put in place to remember Mama Thomasson and her legacy, even though she's gone. So again, we came up with the idea to contribute some small money and establish an endowment fund, which the chemistry department will help us to administer. It's not a whole lot of money, but we hope that students who are going to benefit from this will learn that it is a good thing to be nice to somebody that may be from a different culture, a different country that you have never been to before, somebody from a different background that you have never been acquainted to before. Like we came from Cameroon and Mama Thomasson took us like her own. So that's really the whole essence of this endowment fund. We would like that the students take home this idea. It's a legacy of Mama Thomasson that we hold dear in our hearts. And we know that she also held this dear in her heart to want to look out to anybody, regardless of their background or culture. And so that's the reason why the scholarship is in place. And hopefully students who are future beneficiaries would be able to take this little message. And we do appreciate the chemistry department a lot for helping us to administer this scholarship, and University of North Dakota as a whole for facilitating this process. We deeply appreciate that. And in the future, we continue to appreciate the efforts put together by the chemistry department to train future Cameroon students that come to the department. Thank you very much.